No, a 19+ minute video on Taylor Swift. You better hit that like button right now, cause I can assure you this is a good video. I want to talk a little bit about Taylor Swift and why she's winning. This is one of the biggest artists in the world right now. I've known about Taylor Swift going on 14 years. Recently, she did some really crazy numbers with her album Midnights. I want to talk a little bit about those numbers, and I also want to talk a little bit about why she is winning. First of all, I think everybody's familiar with Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is of course a 32-year-old Pennsylvania-born, Nashville-raised singer. Taylor's been a giant in the music industry. She's been around for as long as I can remember. She got her first big break in the music industry back in 2006, so she's been around longer than some of y'all been alive. In 2006, Taylor Swift dropped her debut single, Tim McGraw. Hey, this is not bad. Shit, turn that shit up. Damn, yeet motherfucking hard. Let's go, Nick. The single, which was released on June 19, 2006, ended up peaking at number 40 on the Billboard Hot 100. For the record, by the way, Taylor Swift was 16 when that record dropped. That same year, on October 24, she dropped her self-titled debut studio album. That ended up doing fairly well and honestly just positioned her in a place where, as a young artist, she had all the tools she needed to become a superstar, and so that's what happened. This was Taylor Swift performing her song Tim McGraw at the age of 15. Album after album, tour after tour, record after record. This woman has been one of the most dominating forces in the music industry the last decade, so it's really not surprising why she's getting all this success right now. You know how they say being an overnight success takes 10 years? Meaning there's no such thing as an overnight success. There's only 10 years worth of work and then you appear as an overnight success. I feel like that's kind of what's going on here with Taylor Swift, because even as someone who hasn't really followed her career that closely, I've known the kind of numbers she's been pulling in. But it seems like a lot of people are surprised about the success she's getting now. In 2018, Taylor Swift went on the Reputation Stadium Tour, so she was doing stadiums exclusively, start to finish. The tour consisted of 53 shows. It started on May 18, 2018 and ended on November 21, 2018. The tour grossed over $345 million, which was a 38% jump from her 2015-1989 world tour. That tour grossed over $250 million. Reputation, the album, by the way, that came out on November 10, 2017. It was her 6th studio album, and that project did over $1.2 million in first week sales when it came out. It was at the time her 5th #1 on the Billboard 200. It ended up becoming one of the best-selling albums of that year, and this was her 4th time selling a million first week. Her album Red, that dropped in 2012, actually did over 1.2 million copies in first week sales of being out as well, and it's crazy to think that Taylor Swift was doing 1 million copies in first week sales over a decade ago. 10 years later, here she is doing the same shit over again. About a week ago, well, actually probably more than a week ago when I dropped this video, about, let's say 2 weeks ago, that's probably when I'm gonna drop this video, Taylor Swift dropped a new album titled Midnights. This album is honestly a huge success. It's doing insane numbers right now. I can't stress it enough, but this album, man, numbers wise, it's huge. The streams are off the roof. The sales are even crazier. The album actually ended up pushing over 1.5 million in first week sales. 1.1 million, give or take, of those sales were physical copies. Let that marinate for a second. But the album managed to push 1.2 million of those sales just after 3 days of its release. It broke both streaming records on Spotify and Apple Music. Taylor Swift Midnight is currently occupying the entire top 10 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. By the way, the song right here, it's called Anti-Hero, biggest one from the album. This sounds really fucking good. This sounds really fucking good, honestly. So just touching on one aspect of the album rollout, Taylor Swift did this little show on TikTok called Midnight Mayhem, where she was for a couple weeks, slowly over time, announcing the track list to her album. And she did it with the help of... You hear the sound in the background. Ping pong balls.
First track I'm going to tell you about. Track 13.
It was really interactive, really cool to see an artist of this stature building up the hype for their album in such a casual way. Obviously, she marketed and promoted this album in other ways as well, but just her including this in the process I thought was genius, because this hardly takes any money. I mean, these were clips she posted on TikTok. Very low effort, and despite that, it still kept her fans engaged. I think an artist who's at this level actually has the luxury of doing anything really, long as they're communicating with their fans, and it'll still pay off. As far as Taylor Swift and her fans, this woman has a very deep connection with her fans, something I didn't really know until I was researching for this video. From the research I've done, right, I actually think this is a big reason as to why she's winning so much. She has what we call a real audience. Her fan base is really immense, and they've all really bought into her as a human on a deep level. That's why anything with Taylor Swift's name is gonna sell out pretty much every single time. The demand for her music is sky high. For a lot of people that might sound crazy, but the world is a big place and you're not everywhere. Don't forget that. Now in this next part of the video, let's talk a little bit about some of the things that Taylor Swift has actually done for her fans. Because like I said earlier, she has a really deep connection with her audience, and I think this is why she's so big, right? Over the years, there's actually been a lot of stories of Taylor Swift pulling up to her fans' houses unannounced, just to give back. Here's a video on a screen of Taylor Swift randomly popping up at one of her fans' bridal showers. She couldn't make it to her wedding, so she went there instead with a bunch of gifts, by the way. She actually treats her fans like family, which is very refreshing to see, because once you make it to a certain level in the industry, most artists don't even bother going out of their way for their fans because they don't really see the point. They made it, right? So no need to. Taylor Swift, she takes a different approach.
Every song is a freaking masterpiece, and we all were speechless.
In 2014, Taylor Swift started orchestrating these fan-exclusive listening parties called The Secret Sessions. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a listening party with her and her fans where she plays them her upcoming album. And by the way, all these fans are invited to her home. She personally handpicks the people she's gonna invite through social media.
Every song you're just like, this is my favorite, and then another one comes on, you're like, no, this is my favorite.
So after the first minute, I also have the trailer that comes out tomorrow.
Someone who treats their fans this well, it should not be a surprise why their fans love them so much. I mean, she's taking her fans into her home with open arms. That's a different level of trust. Shout out to Logic, who actually did something similar during his promotional run for his 2015 album, The Incredible True Story. By the way, this album right here was fucking amazing. I can't believe just people slept on this shit. Crazy. What Logic did on this particular promotional run, by the way, is he didn't do what Taylor Swift did, i.e. invite people to his home, but instead, he pulled up on his fans at their crib and played him his album. This was, of course, during his Tits promotional run. Tits, by the way, that's the initials to the album. I ain't talking about actual titties here. By the way, that project did over 135K first week. 118,000 of those sales being from physicals. Crazy ratio, right? Pay attention to how artists who have a very tight bond with their audience always seem to excel in selling physicals in comparison to artists who don't have that type of bond with their audience. I'll drop one little gem about why that's the case. If someone buys a physical copy from the artist they support, they're more invested in that artist's success than the average listener. So if you can get your fans to go out of their way and invest in your career even once, you can make them do that twice, you can make them do that 3 times, 4 times, and so forth. What Taylor Swift, and Logic as well, by the way, this applies to him very much, what both of these artists have done, from day one is they got their fans to a point where they were as invested in their success as the artists themselves. They've done that in a gazillion ways, but since I don't want to digress too much, just think about what I said, keep that in mind. Now back to Taylor Swift. A couple real life examples of how Taylor Swift treats her fans. Let's go over a couple. Here's an Instagram comment from Taylor Swift from a few years back where she was encouraging one of her fans who was getting bullied at the time. Taylor dropped this really nice comment and essentially was telling her supporter, hey, there's nothing wrong with you. This is people just being people. On one part, she said, I hate thinking about your pretty face covered in tears, but I know why you're crying because I've been in your place. This may not seem so significant, but keep this in mind. Her fans are watching things like this going down, and after things like this, which by the way, this is kind of normal for Taylor Swift and you'll see in a second, but after things like this, they're not only fans of her music, but they're also fans and advocates of her character as a human being because they see how deeply she cares about her audience. And it's at a point like this where the support you're getting as an artist becomes less about the music and more about the person behind the music. And that's a very powerful place to be as an artist, and Taylor Swift, she's right there. Beyond that, actually. For the record, just want to add this in. This is not something you can fake. A lot of artists try to do that, but it always backfires. So an artist can't fake, at least forever, that they actually care about their fans. There's 2 different types of concerns an artist can have for their audience. The first one is general concern, and the second one is genuine concern. Taylor Swift falls under the latter. She's genuinely concerned about her audience, and I'll show you some more examples of that in a second. She genuinely cares about them as people, and in return, they obviously care about her, and they're obviously invested in her success. Most artists, by the way, I want to say 80% based on the research I've done, have that general concern for their supporters. That 20%, however, who has that genuine concern, they're always going to have a tighter bond with their listeners. They're also, most of the time, going to have more emotional investment from their listeners, which in return, that's going to feed into their pockets, so it does actually pay off to be a good person. That 20%, by the way, they also nurture the relationship they have with their audience way more. Since their audience is way more connected to them, they're also more connected to the artist's success, and these are all overall things Taylor Swift has going for her. As for this genuine concern aspect, like I said earlier, you can't really fake it. You either give a damn or you don't. If you do, it's gonna manifest itself in something like this, i.e. showing genuine concern for your supporters even when you don't need to. If you don't care, by the way, well, it's gonna eventually get exposed as well. Continuing. As for this comment that she dropped encouraging her fan, there's a reason why she actually dropped this comment. Over a decade ago in an interview, she stated that she was bullied herself in elementary. Apparently the kids at her school made fun of her because she liked country music, which is funny because she spoke on this in January 2009 and said that those same kids who bullied her actually tried befriending her after she started blowing up at a young age. Wow, how surprising. People who were once haters are now fans. Never seen that before. Actually, I'm obviously kidding. I got a couple of those myself. By the way, they're apparently wearing her merch, asking her to sign their CDs of her music. And that's even funnier because they literally bullied her. Again, the audacity of these motherfuckers. I'm sure Taylor Swift signed, by the way. She seems like that kind of person.
See, Taylor Swift, she's you're better than me, Taylor, because, I'm not signing shit. If you hated on me, ain't no such thing as forgiveness. I'm stunting on your ass until the day I die. Believe that shit.
Me stunting on my haters and breakdancing on their grave aside. That's that demon in me coming out, by the way. So Taylor Swift, she's really big on staying connected to her audience. A lot of artists claim that they do, but this woman actually does. She puts her money where her mouth is. First of all, we did talk about that she's literally known for just showing up at her fans' houses. I mean, this is one of the biggest artists in the world. I don't really see artists at her level doing stuff like that. No wonder the Swifties will literally cut a bitch for Taylor. There's also been other instances like the comment I showed you where she just pulls up to someone's comment section and thanks them for the support. Sometimes she pops up, randomly gives them words of wisdom, encourages them, like in that IG post I showed you where a fan was getting bullied. And in a lot of those instances, by the way, she's gone out of her way to send her fans personal letters, free merch, and more stuff. I want to cover this story regarding Taylor Swift and one of her fans from 2015. Back in 2015, this really cool story regarding Taylor Swift and one of her fans ended up breaking. The fan's name is Stephanie. She's out of Manchester, the UK. She saw Taylor live in Manchester back in 2015 for the 1989 tour. Stephanie at the time was struggling. She was 8 months pregnant and homeless for a period of time. Her mother shared this with Taylor Swift, not with the intention of getting anything. She just wanted Taylor Swift to make her feel special at the show she was attending. Now Taylor Swift, she heard the story, took Stephanie backstage, personally thanked her for the support she had shown her throughout the years. Taylor Swift told her, "I want you to be able to enjoy your little girl." She was of course pregnant at the time. And then she followed that up by saying that she doesn't want her to worry about any of the stuff she was going through. Guess what happened after this, by the way? Taylor Swift Batista bombed her fan. I'm just kidding, she didn't do that. Like this video just for that joke. What happened was Taylor Swift ended up helping Stephanie buy a house. Stephanie made this story public years later in 2017. This story is crazy to me because Taylor Swift never made this public herself. She actually kept the story to herself, which means she didn't do it for the looks. She did it because she cares. Once again, no wonder the Swifties will cut a bitch for Taylor. Actually, they'll probably cut several bitches. Taylor Swift is also really big on doing things for the kids. She's on countless of occasions. Honestly, it was kind of hard to count how many times. Fun fact, by the way, I actually had to exclude a lot of the good deeds she's done throughout the years because I don't want to make this video too long. That's how much good she's done. She's on countless of occasions throughout the years, visited children's hospitals. Most of these visits have been surprise visits. In 2015, Taylor Swift granted a wish for a terminally ill 5-year-old. Her name was Ava Hadfield. She was a 5-year-old little girl from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, who was a big Taylor Swift fan. She was suffering from an aggressive tumor on her brain, and one of her last wishes was to meet Taylor Swift, and she did. Taylor heard about her story after it reached her management, and they set it up. Back in 2012, Taylor Swift dropped this record called Ronin. The song was a tribute to a 3-year-old whose name was Ronin. He died in 2011 from neuroblastoma, which is a type of cancer. May that young boy's soul rest eternally. Taylor Swift dedicated this record to 3-year-old Ronin after she read his mother's blog, Maya Thompson. Maya started writing on her blog as soon as Ronin was diagnosed. Sometime in 2011, Taylor Swift ended up coming across the blog, and she was so moved by the story to the point where she wrote this song. Since the record was inspired by the late Ronin's story and his mother's blog, Taylor ended up crediting Maya as a co-writer on this record, which I thought was a really dope move. And by the way, that obviously means that Maya is making some money from this song, which, I mean, that's even a doper move. Aside from that, she's done a lot of charity work actually more than most artists in the industry. As I was doing research for this video, I was actually surprised at the amount of charity work and just generally speaking good deeds she's done. Like I said, I had to exclude a couple things just so this video isn't too long. Sometime back in 2018, Taylor Swift donated money to a fan whose mother was in a coma for the past 3 years. In October 2011, she donated $70,000 to her hometown library. In 2015, during her 1989 era, when she had just moved to New York, she donated $50,000 to the city schools. In 2016, she donated $250,000 to a friend of hers, actually, Kesha, who had just lost a lawsuit at the time. She donated the money to show support to her friend. In 2017 and 2018, she made 2 generous donations to I can't say the word, SA Foundations. In 2017, she also donated some money to the survivors of Hurricane Harvey as a helping hand. In 2018, she met up with a little boy who was a fan with autism and donated $10,000 to his family so they could get him a service dog. In 2019, she covered the medical bills for one of her 16-year-old fans who was battling cancer at the time. In March 2020, after at least 24 people had gotten killed in Nashville, Tennessee due to a tornado, Taylor Swift donated over $1 million. This is one aspect of these artists that we never talk about. Being a decent human being really goes a long way, and as far as I can see it, at least, a big part of why her fans are going so crazy for her, it's because they see that pureness in her. Every time an artist does a good deed for one of their fans, best believe that all their other fans are sitting there paying attention and taking notes. So what Taylor Swift fans have seen for the last well over a decade is her putting the fans first. She's been all about her fans since day one, and you know what? She makes some really catchy music. Shit, I'm a Swiftie too now. But the fans have seen her move like this consistently her entire career. Essentially what Taylor Swift has done without outright saying it is she's been showing her fans since she came in the game that she's all about them. Nothing gets in the way of her and the bond she has with her audience. In an industry where artists come and go, that's very powerful because the one thing that's going to make you stay is your audience. Taylor Swift, she knows that, her fans know that, which is why they're always going so hard for her.
These are some additional photos from that visit. Earlier this month, Delaney's mom announced the cancer had spread to her 13-year-old daughter's brain, that Delaney was stopping chemo and coming home to be on hospice care. Delaney's biggest wish was to meet Taylor, and a social media campaign got started. The hashtag #DelaneyMeetTaylor started trending online. Our Denver 7 viewers helped get that going, and this is the result. Delaney's mom posted all these photos on Facebook saying, "Thank you, Taylor Swift, for the best Christmas present ever."
Thanks. The funny one?
Yeah, and Jabba.
And Jabba the Hutt.
Yes, oh my god. He's like, he doesn't seem like he'd be fun to hang out with.
Just from watching how she interacts with her audience, it's really clear why she's so successful. They're all behind a person who they truly believe is a good person, and I don't doubt that, by the way. I've known about Taylor Swift for the past 13 or actually 14 years. I still, till this day, okay, I still haven't heard a single shady story about her. Her name has, of course, been brought up in a lot of different situations and stories, like the Scooter Braun Masters controversy. I paid attention to that. Overall, Taylor Swift has moved in very good faith throughout her time in the industry. She's insanely talented. She loves what she does. You can tell that she does, and she's very competent at it. She's broken some of the craziest records in music industry history at the mere age of 32. So Taylor Swift getting all the success, it's obviously not a coincidence. All the records she's breaking right now is the direct result of the work she's put in this past decade. It's a direct result of how much she's nurtured the relationship she has with her audience throughout her time in the music industry. It's also a testament to the fact that as long as you have your fan base as an artist, you will be good. What Taylor Swift has done is she's just poured into her audience for the last well over a decade. She's very consistent too. I mean, she does crazy numbers every single time she drops. It's like clockwork. Also, the fact that she's maintained a very solid level of integrity throughout her time in industry, I gotta give it up to her. That's something I personally really pay attention to. I don't care how big you are as an artist, if your morals, your integrity, your principles, and your ethics get thrown out the window in pursuit of that success, your success, at least in my eyes, isn't really as valuable as it would have been otherwise. Which is why Taylor Swift's success, given the fact that she's maintained her integrity throughout her time in the industry, means so much. By the way, as for her album, I listened to it and I can hear why it's doing so well. Anti-Hero, which I played earlier, okay, this is the biggest record from the album. It's probably my favorite one. As you can hear, it doesn't sound too bad, right? I like this. I think Lavender Haze is another really good song, and as you can hear, this shit doesn't sound too bad. I think the way she packaged this entire album, along with the rollout, along with the high demand there is for her music, those are all things that contributed to these numbers. At the core though, this is obviously all thanks to her fan base. She's honestly killing it right now, and I gotta give it up to Taylor, man. By the way, this shit right here is my favorite Taylor Swift song right here, man. No lie, I've actually kept this on repeat for, shit, over a decade. I mean, I remember when the song came out. Like I said, man, shit, I might just be a Swiftie too at this point. Anyway, like this video if you made it this far. Come on now, okay? This was like a 17, 18, or 19 minute video. I'm not sure how long it'll be. Don't be stingy. You made it this far, which means you enjoy this content. Just click that button right now. I'm waiting. Thank you. Anyway, any thoughts on Taylor Swift and all the great things she's doing right now? Honestly, she's killing it. She just did 1.5 million in first week sales. I mean, clearly she's killing the game, right? She got the industry in a chokehold. She's powerful as shit, and you know, shit, what can I say? Here's what you have to say about Taylor Swift though. So yeah, let me know in the comment section below, and have a good day or night or wherever the fuck you're at. I'm out. Peace.